So a clip recently resurfaced on social media showing a Muslim man blocking the entrance of a bus in order to pray. And while this footage of course provoked predictable reactions, I think what stood out for me is not just the act, the prayer itself, it's the confidence that comes with it. And it reflects a growing audacity. And alongside this audacity, this emerging expectation that other people should just accommodate or just accept these disruptions. And as Islam grows and becomes more visibly asserted in public spaces, I think the Western world now needs to confront a pressing question it has long avoided. Who is expected to adapt to whom? I'm not here to mock anyone's beliefs. I'm not anti-faith and I am not anti-Muslim. People are free to believe, to pray, to practice their religion. But what is becoming impossible to ignore is this growing demand that people should just bend and reorganize themselves around one particular religious identity. And let's not dance around it. That religion is Islam. Again, I am not against Muslims as people. I have family members that are Muslims, but I am categorically against and genuinely worried about this creeping Islamification of the country and the Western world. And to be honest, it's not even creeping anymore. It's actually blatant. And it sort of carries this unspoken vibe of, yeah, it's happening. And what are you going to do about it? And what these clips and incidents highlight to me and to anyone who's actually paying attention is this broader pattern, that our society is slowly but deliberately being reshaped to accommodate one set of religious demands, while everyone else is just expected to adjust and accept it and shut up about it. Some people will try and defend this, as personal devotion. And okay, they're entitled to say that, but personal devotion doesn't require an audience. It doesn't require that other people stop what they're doing or become, unwilling participants in your religious practice.
Allahu Akbar. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen Ar-Rahmanir Rahim.
And the thing that I've noticed is that a lot of adherents of this faith, they don't just tolerate an audience, they actively seem to want one. It feels deliberate to me. The choice, the settings, the timings, the visibility of it all, none of that feels accidental anymore. And it's reached a point where the prayer, where these acts aren't simply happening in public, it's happening to the public. People are expected just to pause everything, or just politely look away or just accept the disruption, as I said. And at this point, it stops looking like a private act of devotion and it starts looking like a statement, a way of asserting your presence and priority. And this isn't just about individual behavior, because you see the same thing happening at an institutional level as well. Islam increasingly appears to be given priority in certain settings. Look at the NHS prayer rooms. We're told that they're multi-faith, but when you actually look at them, walk into them, what you see tells a different story. The visual markers are clearly Islamic. There's nothing there that meaningfully reflects, Christian or Jewish or Sikh or Hindu traditions at all. And certainly nothing that reflects a genuinely neutral space. Now, some will say, well, Muslims are simply more passionate about their faith, more fervent. They pray more, they take it more seriously, and that it's unfair to expect this kind of restraint just because, other religions don't operate in the same way in public anymore. But that argument only works really if we accept that the intensity of someone's belief should determine how much priority it's given in public. And that's not how this country is supposed to function. We don't organize society around the loudest, the most demanding, or the most visibly assertive belief system simply because it seems to ask more of its followers. And there's also a deeper problem with this line of defense, and I think it's this lazy assumption that visible religiosity piety automatically equals sincerity or sincere passion? That if someone is publicly demonstrative about their faith, then it must be, deeper or more authentic, more meaningful, therefore more important. But that simply isn't true. Visibility is not the same thing as sincerity, and performance is certainly not the same thing as conviction. In fact, throughout history, religions themselves have warned against exactly this kind of outward display, because once belief becomes something that you show rather than something that you live, then it stops being about spiritual discipline and it starts serving as social signaling and power. And even if we accept, for the sake of argument, that Islam seems to place more formal obligations on its adherents, it seems to demand more from them, well, having more obligations does not entitle anyone to encroach on wider society. And encroach is exactly the right word here, because to encroach means advancing gradually beyond what is usual or acceptable, intruding into shared territory, into other people's time, spaces, routines, and expectations. That is precisely what is happening, and pretending otherwise does not change the reality. By the way, if Muslims are perceived as more passionate and, let's say, Christians are seen as less so or more private about their faith, this did not happen by accident. This is the product of decades, and in some cases centuries, of reform, of conflict, of hard lessons learned. Christianity in this country, it didn't retreat from public life simply because believers stopped believing. Although, yes, that did happen in some places, but it largely retreated because liberal societies like ours, we deliberately concluded that constant public religious assertion was actually quite socially destructive. So faith was pushed inward by design, not by apathy, in order to allow people of different beliefs or no belief at all to live together without one worldview pressing itself into everyone else's daily life. And this is now a secular society. Britain is a secular society by choice and design, but it remains a Christian one by history. Those are the facts. So there are only two options here. Either this country continues along the secular path it deliberately chose, where religion is largely private, or it consciously returns to its Christian roots and structures society around that inheritance. What it cannot do is drift into becoming more Islamic. Sorry, that is not a viable option here. So that means that we do not bend to any religion or quasi-religious cultural practices. It means places like Subway, Five Guys, you don't take pork off the menu. If someone is Muslim and cannot eat pork, they have to order something else or from somewhere else. You don't redo the whole menu. That means when an imam is caught being involved in officiating child marriage, he really should go to prison, especially since people have gone to prison for tweets. So it seems that the law is consistently flexible when it comes to certain groups. That means we don't have people who barely speak English in positions of power in this country.
Gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum. I come from Bangladesh, so we are equal now in the diversity, ambassador and mayor of Brighton from the diverse.
That means a public official doesn't swear into public office using the Quran. It's either a Bible or nothing at all. At some point, enough really does have to be enough. So I will leave it there. Let me know what you think. If you've made it this far into the video, then I would like to ask you to subscribe and, more importantly, become a member so that this channel can grow as it's growing and become much better than it is today. And shout out to all my members who are already part of this journey. See you soon.